We will learn about a pregnancy center and get a behind-the-scenes look at a local pastor. All that and more coming up now on Joy in the City True Stories. Joy in the City is a program highlighting people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and dysfunction in our culture, but we are coming with a different approach as we take a look at the good things going on right here in our community. I'm Bethany Marshall, and you're about to see what God is doing in our city. Crossroads Pregnancy Center exists to help those facing pregnancy decisions know and understand all their options. We recently had the opportunity to speak with them about their ministry.
Well, hello ladies. Thank you for joining me today on the show. We like to highlight different groups and organizations and what they're doing in our area. So there's something kind of new coming to the Altoona area, but it's not new as a whole. So why don't you start telling us a little bit about yourself and how the organization got started?
Okay, well, my name is Cindy Mansberger. I'm the Executive Director of Crossroads Pregnancy Center. Crossroads has been in existence since 1985. We now have 4 offices that are medical clinics as well as all of the other pro-life services that we can provide for the people in those areas. So that's Juniata, Mifflin, and Huntington County. And we are now preparing to open an office in Altoona.
Okay, so what got you started? Why did you start with this? What was your heart behind wanting to do this?
Well, my heart is that when I was younger, I had some circumstances in my life that led me to be sort of the prodigal daughter. And when Jesus opened his arms and welcomed me back, and I started to walk in my faith, I always thought it would be super to work in a ministry. But before I knew my identity in Christ, I didn't feel like he could use me, right? So with the encouragement of my husband and a friend at church, they heard there was an opening at Crossroads Pregnancy Center. And so I applied, not thinking that I would get the job. And a couple days after the interview, we were outside working in the yard, and I had on those old shoes you wear in the mud. And my husband and I had sat down on the deck to take a break, and the phone rang. And it was the board calling me and saying, "We'd like you to take this position." And so I was kind of shocked and surprised and excited, and I walked out on the deck, and my husband looked at me and he said, "You got the job, didn't you?" And I said, "I think I did." And he said, "Cindy, look at your shoes." And in the soles of these shoes that I had never consciously seen before, in capital letters, was the word Crossroads. And in that moment, God said, "This is the way, walk in it." And it has been such a blessing to be on the front lines, for Christ and for life, and to see what he can do.
So you referenced a little bit about the organization. So tell me about what is Crossroads?
Okay, Crossroads is a pregnancy resource center. We have many programs there. So our mission statement is to provide help, hope, and healing in Jesus' name, and uphold the sanctity of life through education, medical services, practical support, ongoing support. So we have our medical clinics, which Teresa can speak to in a minute. She is our nurse manager. We have pregnancy tests, ultrasounds for confirmation of pregnancy. We do STD testing and treatment. We have a Bridges program, which is an Earn While You Learn program, where the parents will come in and one-on-one we do classes with them. We have hundreds of classes about parenting and pregnancy and life skills, and they get a point for each class and can earn many, many things for the baby, cribs and car seats and diapers and clothes and all that. We have our sexual integrity program, teaching God's plan for sexuality. So we do that one-on-one in our offices. We do that through book studies and videos and discussion. We have a men's ministry. So we also meet with the men, and we have male client advocates that meet with the men, and they can help them through all the things that they're struggling, if it's an unplanned pregnancy or whatnot. We have our post-abortion Bible studies that we do with women who have had past abortions and are struggling, with the emotional or spiritual grief over that. So regular Bible studies we have as well, and we also have another division of Crossroads called Reaching Destinations, and that is our sexual risk avoidance program that goes into youth groups and public schools, teaching about healthy relationships, which is something Stephanie could talk to a little bit.
Wow. Well, so let's talk a little bit about the medical piece of this. If you can, just tell us a little bit about what's the purpose and what are you able to do with that?
The purpose is to give the unborn child value and identity, so that to introduce the parents to the baby is what the ultrasound is about. When you're first pregnant, it's surreal. You don't realize you're pregnant. All you see are two little lines on the pregnancy stick. So the ultrasound is a window that actually shows that there is a beating heart growing inside of you and has its own DNA, its own identity. That's the purpose of the ultrasound. The STD is obviously testing and treating, but that's also involves a lot of sexual integrity courses, abstinence, all those things are involved with that. Pregnancy testing, I have to have a pregnancy test before I do an ultrasound. But that's also, that gives us a way to talk to families about changes in their life, what's going to happen, and that it can be a really good thing. So.
Definitely. Wow. So as a faith-based show, we often look at organizations and see how the church or even individuals can come alongside organizations. So Stephanie, talk a little about what the community aspect of what you do and how we can help partner.
Yeah. So far in the 4 offices that we already have, we partner with organizations like WIC, Family Services, Children and Family Services, the court systems, medical offices, and they refer clients to us for the Bridges program, like Cindy was talking about, that Earn While You Learn, to give us an opportunity to talk to these clients, these individuals. And so what we really want is to partner with not just churches, but organizations as well in Blair County. We want churches to come alongside of us in this mission, to pray for us. Anytime anybody asks what they can do, please pray for us. Please pray for these women and these families that are making these decisions. And then find out how you can be involved. Maybe it is connecting us with other organizations and services. We know there's the Youth Refuge Network, and there's some other things here that we're really excited to partner with, because we truly believe the church is best when we're working together in unity. And so to be able to come together as a whole, we have more resources than to offer the clients and the individuals, so they get this well-rounded approach of help, hope, and healing.
Definitely. So you had said that there's 4 clinics already, and Altoona will be the 5th. When is that going to launch, or is it established, or what's the timetable there?
Yeah, well, we have an address. It's 212 Frankstown Road. We're in the process of getting it ready to open. So we're hoping the end of September. We've had a couple of calls already from potential clients, so we're ready to roll. God has really been rolling this out quickly, so we feel like He's up to something here. He knows what's ahead, and so since the Supreme Court decision, there's going to be more and more women, one way or the other, whatever the state does, that will need our help. And so I wonder sometimes if that's not what He's doing, just telling us to be ready. Dr. Pike is our medical director. She also works at UPMC, and we are a licensed medical clinic with the state of Pennsylvania. So we've had, 9 years of experience now, I think, doing medical services.
I think it's been 9 years.
So I think we're to the point now where we're ready to, move into this new area. We started doing Google ads in January of this year, and while it's been on our heart for a while to bring medical services to this area, it really came to light because in the first 4 months, at least 25% of the abortion-minded vulnerable calls we got were from the Altoona area. And what they need is that confirmation of pregnancy, because the abortion pill has gone up, skyrocketed It's out of the 36,000 or so abortions in Pennsylvania in 2020, which is the latest statistics, 21,000 something were in the first 8 weeks of pregnancy. And so the abortion pill has been really, we get more calls for that now than anything. And with that, the FDA says they can take that pill up to 10 weeks. So yes, they're in a hurry, but they want to know if they're pregnant. They need to know how far along they are. They need to know if this is a viable pregnancy. Sometimes pregnancies are in the ectopic pregnancies in the tube, and so if they take it with that, it's not going to work, and there's a lot of risks. So we never ever refer or recommend for abortion. Absolutely not. God is the creator of all life. So our goal is to educate and to inform so that she can make an informed decision. And if they're contemplating the pill, we have some other ways that we can give them information. You know, we can't make decisions for them. They make their own decisions. But if they're still determined to follow through with an abortion, we have some vital information, questions they should ask the provider, a way to look up the clinic they're going to see if there's anything against them legally. We always, always, always tell them that if you go through with this, we are here for you. You know, don't be afraid to come back. We're not going to judge you in this. Do we want you to do that? No, we don't.
Sure.
But we are here for you. And having those medical services can really make a difference a lot of the time when they can see.
Well, the term pro-choice is such a misnomer because women make this choice because they feel they have no other choice, whatever circumstance, and the circumstances are always varied. So they feel like they have no choice. What people don't realize is that probably about 25% of pregnancies end in miscarriage. So if they come in, they may not have a viable baby in there, you know, and then they won't have to make this choice. So this saves them from that gut-wrenching decision that they're contemplating. So they'll come in for that. They'll come in to, like Cindy said, to find, because if they take the abortion pill and it's an ectopic pregnancy, that can be actually deadly to them, because ectopic pregnancies are very dangerous to a person. Now they're not very frequent, but they are there. So
Yeah. We always tell them about abortion pill reversal as well.
right. I forget how long ago, but a physician named Dr. George Delgado learned that if a person takes the abortion pill, the first pill, it's a 2-pill process, but the first pill, if they take the first pill, change their mind before they take the second pill, some of the babies can be saved. If you bolus a person, flood their bodies with progesterone, some babies are saved. So far in the United States, they've saved over 3,000 babies with this process.
Wow.
So hopefully down the roads, Crossroads can be part of that process
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right now what we have is there is a network of doctors that will do this. So we have an 800 number that they can call right away and be able to drive, you know, to the nearest one to them to help. But yeah, hopefully one day we'll have it in our office. But
Wow, this is remarkable. I think, and it's so valuable. It's so necessary. Unfortunately, it's one of the things that a lot of people don't want to talk about. They don't want to face it, and the fact that that's exactly what you guys are doing, facing it and confronting it, and providing all the different options and training and counsel, I think is very valuable. So we, as a faith community, will be praying, and hopefully we can even get the word out a little bit of connecting with you as you get rolling here in September.
yeah, that would be great. That
All
would be
right. Well,
great.
thank you. Thank you all for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
This segment is brought to you by Harry's Construction, whose motto is, "If you can dream it, we can create it." They are the kitchen and bath design experts, so call Harry's Construction for all your remodeling needs. In this segment of the Behind the Scenes Pastor, we will be talking with Pastor Jeremiah Baker.
Well, I have a wife of 22 years. I have 3 children. One of them is a second-year college student at the University of Valley Forge. My second, he is a senior in high school now. And my daughter is, she's in 9th grade now at Central High School. So family's growing up. Actually, really, my son, my oldest son at Valley Forge, he is studying to be a missionary now, which kind of, goes into the line of my family as far as ministry. Of course, I've been in the ministry, for a long time now. My father was a pastor for 40 years, and so it's kind of, our family right now is just locked into ministry, and it's kind of interesting how God has just kind of used our family in that direction. I graduated from Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida, and it was right around 1999, and I was able to get a youth pastor job right out of college in Roaring Spring. And so it was in the summer of 2000, the year 2000, as I was working there. We had just gotten married, my wife and I, and we had an evangelist that came in. His name was Carl Harris, and really when he first came in, you could sense that something was a little bit different, unusual about that time. And so the very first service we had with him on a Sunday, it just took on something of itself, and God began to move in a mighty way. I was leading worship during that time as well at the church, and so we just felt as a staff and a leadership team, as well as Carl Harris, that God was doing something special, and so we just began to continue those services. I think it was scheduled for a week, and we just kind of kept extending it, and the services grew, the people grew to where we had to move into the local high school auditorium to do those services. And so for 17 weeks, we had service every night of the week. And I was asked by a few pastors, was it difficult to do services every night of the week? Because really those services were 3 or 4 hours long. But it wasn't. It was a wonderful experience. And that really launched we started out in ministry that way. And that began to be kind of honed where we were as far as what we felt God wanted to do in us. And so 17 weeks, yes. And really, my wife and I got back from our honeymoon, and it was right away. We went right into ministry. There was no downtime. We just jumped right into it. But it was an awesome experience, and we're thank the Lord for that, and that's what we're after even some more now. Yeah, my call to ministry started really when I was young. I was I just felt the call in my heart into ministry, but just kind of didn't know where. But the thing about my life was, my dad was in ministry, so it's not that I was rejecting the call. I just had a hard time accepting the call. It was just a lot. I didn't think that I'd be able to do it. Just that kind of insecurity. And I remember times where, my family was always doing ministry and different things like that in the church. My mom was a piano player. My sister was a singer. My other sister was a singer. And I remember there were times that my family all got up on the stage and they began, they were singing a special song. And I was the only family member that didn't want to go on the stage at all. And, but I knew the call was there to do that. And, I remember somebody said to me, a pastor friend of mine said, it's in those times where we don't feel like we can do it, that God steps in and really he carries that and that call in your life. And so I knew it at an early age, and I went to Southeastern University in Lakeland, Florida, like I said before. I went as undecided just because I was still kind of just trying to put my toes in a little bit. But it was there that God really honed me and shaped my call. And so I went in. The call of youth pastor was my major, and then I changed it to pastoral. And then when I got out of college, I was a youth pastor, and then I went to youth pastor and worship leader, and then I just went to worship pastor, and then later I was elected in as pastor. So I've kind of done just about everything you can do. I always, at the church that I was at before, we had a full-time custodian. I said, I was a worship pastor, worship leader, senior pastor. Be careful, because I'll be after your job too, as part of the church. But that was kind of the call that led me to that point. We launched Journey Church about 5 years ago. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary this past July. I was a pastor for, in one aspect for 20 years. And I was in a denomination, the Assemblies of God. That's kind of where my background was. My father was in the Assemblies. But for us, when we knew that there was a transition coming, that we were at a church in Roaring Spring for about 20 years. But we really felt God doing something different. But for us, being in a denomination, it was kind of like when you feel that, we began to put our resume into other districts, other Assemblies of God churches. Never did I ever expect to be a church planter. That was kind of always never. I just thought, well, we would just move to another church, another city, and how God would lead us. And I never even thought about it. And when we began to feel that call, again, I did some interviews at different churches, established churches in a couple of different states, but we really felt that God was speaking to us that he wasn't done with us in this area. And he began to put it on our heart, my heart, my wife's heart, to plant a church, which was something that wasn't on our radar. But that's kind of how God does it sometimes. And so we began to pray about it more, and we really felt the sense, okay, this is the direction for us. We're going to start a church in this area again, which wasn't on our radar. But we began to go into it where, we kind of had those questions. Okay, God, we don't have a place. We don't have any people. We don't have chairs. We don't have sound system. We don't have anything. But it was amazing as we began to take these steps and God began to lead these steps, that God began to provide every step of the way, financially, with different things and different people that came alongside of us. And I remember praying about a place to start. And so, I drove around the area that we really felt God was leading us to, which was the Hollidaysburg area, Duncansville area, maybe that side of Altoona. And so I really felt, as I drove by the Altoona Grand Hotel, that was the place that we really need. I just felt that was a place to start. And so I decided one afternoon to pull in there and talk to their leadership. And I walked into the area that has their ballroom and everything. And so I began to talk to their staff and told them who I was and what I wanted to do. And really, they told me they didn't think it was going to work out. And so I walked out and I got into my vehicle and I said, okay, God, I really feel that this is the place, but it was like door shut. And so I looked at a few other places during about 2-week period, and I was driving by there again, and I just felt, okay, now's the time to go in again. And I think they had just changed leadership of staff-wise. And I pulled into the parking lot and I said, Lord, if this is the place that I feel that you're leading, let the doors be open. And so I began to talk to the staff again, and there were a couple new people, and everything that I asked them for was a yes. Not only that, but they begin to say, well, we normally charge for this, we'll waive that charge, and this, we'll waive that charge. And so we began to step into that place, and it was set up and tear down for about 1.5 years. So while we were in there, we would just have Sunday morning service. That's all we had. But they used to tell us every once in a while, they would call me on a Monday and say, hey, just to let you know, we can't have you in this week, which when you're trying to grow a church and trying to be steady, that was always tough to hear. And so we would just try to get the word out as best as we could through Facebook to the people that were coming. It wasn't a large congregation at that time, but and then we would go to the casino, or we would go to the convention center, which I always really kind of enjoyed, saying that we were having church in the casino, even though it means something different here. And we would have somebody stand at the door and tell people, well, we're not here this week, we're over at, this place. And so they would do that, left and right every once in a while. And I remember one Monday morning they called me and they said, there's a couple weeks that we can't have you in. And I said, okay, thinking that they were, there was a date here and a date there, spread out. And it was about 6 or 8 weeks in a row they weren't going to let us be in there. And I thought, oh no. Just a couple days before that, I got a call from a brother that was a head of the American Baptist in Pennsylvania, I believe. And he had called me a couple days before, and he had said, we're closing down a church in Hollidaysburg, and I just heard about your church that's meeting, and we wanted, and he wanted to know if you wanted to look at our church, and so I just kind of put that on the back burner because I just didn't know if that was whatever. And so I had the great idea, well, why don't I call him and say, hey, do you mind us using your facility for like 6 to 8 weeks just to help us out? And so I called him, and we began to talk and get to know each other a little bit. And I began to slowly say, hey, would you mind? And he just kind of stopped me there. And he said, listen, the reason why I was calling you was, he said, we closed the church down and heard about you guys, and I just felt that we would ask if you wanted to come and, kind of be in our facility for 6 to 8 weeks or so, just to see if you like it. And I thought, that sounds like God right there. And so I said, sure, we'll do that. And so that's how we got started where we're at right now behind the courthouse I think it was the Hollidaysburg First Baptist Church. And we've been in there ever since. And so it was just God opening up the door again for us.
That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Joy in the City True Stories. Let me encourage you to watch other episodes of people and organizations having an impact on our community on ABC 23 at 5:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Sunday. You can also catch us each week on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Until then, be encouraged because God is moving in our city.